Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of Mark's Side of the Ring. I'm your host, Miguel Minetti, alongside my two guys here. Got Nick Fiorentino, Fred DeCourt. What's going on, boys?
What's happening?
What's up?
What's going on, man? Yeah, we have a lot of exciting wrestling things to talk about today, coming off the heels of the Royal Rumble, the pandemic version of the Royal Rumble 2021. So today's episode, of course, we're going to be talking all things Royal Rumble, the fallout of the Royal Rumble, who won both Royal Rumbles, and now the road to WrestleMania finally beginning. I'm excited to go. I'm sure you two are as well, too. But before we get into that, Nick, what are you drinking tonight, bro? I see you drinking something there.
Yeah, I got a little take on the Moscow Mule. The only difference is I'm using peach vodka instead of regular vodka. So nice little peach ginger action. Very nice.
Wow, pinkies up. Riveting stuff. Fred, how about yourself, brother?
Well, I'm all about the peach myself. I have here Tito's with a little peach club soda, a little peach ginger Poland Spring club soda to go with it.
Nice. Looks like you both are into peaches, so
I could eat a peach for hours.
I love peaches.
Good stuff. Well, we're ready to talk some wrestling, but before we do, Nick's got a special announcement he wants to let everyone know. So, Nick, why don't you take it away real quick for our viewers at home?
Sure. Well, we got a bunch of things with the TruExact Radio family that we use to put this through. Mr. TruExact himself, Scott, our producer on both Mark's Side of the Ring and Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets, has created a website. So it's TruExactRadio.com. The cool thing with that is you can go to our website and it's a one-stop shop for all of our archived shows. All new shows will be on there. For example, the guys on Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets just had a great show with Mark Malusis and Sal Licata from WFAN. Talking all things. We do talk a little bit about the Royal Rumble, but I thought Miguel would sue us if we went too far into it for copyright infringement. But we talk all about the Super Bowl and the big game and what bets we like. And then I know Mr. TruExact himself, Scott, on Friday is doing a show with San Jose Sharks radio announcer Randy Hahn. So some pretty good shows coming down the line. And, of course, we got Mark's Side, and we're doing all things Royal Rumble in the recap, which I think I only got one wrong. I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but I think I got one wrong. So fun stuff. And there's going to be a site where you can get all your merch, your Mark's Side of the Ring, texting gloves, whatever the hell merchandise he's going to come up with. But it should be some fun stuff coming down the line for TruExact in Mark's Side of the Ring.
TruExact Radio doing some big things. So I know I speak on behalf of all three of us, proud to be part of this group. So really good stuff here. But let's dive right into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view that took place this past Sunday. Nick, I know you had just mentioned that you had gotten one wrong, right? I know we did our prediction show last week, which you guys can, of course, go back and listen to and get all of our predictions and see who we picked for every single match. But I think I was right on almost all the non-Rumble matches. I got both Royal Rumbles wrong. I know that for a fact, because I went left field with Ronda and Brock Lesnar, which neither of them were a part of the show whatsoever.
Hey, look, you took a shot, you know?
I took a shot, and then I struck out. But, hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So I know I was wrong there. But let's start off, obviously, with the biggest news of the night, and that was the fact that Edge won the men's Royal Rumble match at the number one spot. Nick, I'll kick it to you first. What was your immediate reaction knowing that Edge won the Royal Rumble? And a little bit maybe of an inside joke here. Nick knows probably why I'm laughing on this, but go ahead, Nick, tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, by the way, Mark Malusis said that was to quote fucking bullshit. But long story short, obviously WWE came out and they announced the night before who was coming out 1 and 2. And if you're listening to this and you know Miguel, he runs a Royal Rumble pool where it's $30, you get one pick. So, I mean, it could be $30 and you can get the Godfather, which he's gotten before. You can pay $30 and get Santina in the Women's Rumble, or you can get a home run pick like I had a few years ago with Nakamura, and he took it all the way. And this year, I had the number 2 pick. And if you followed the night before the Rumble, you found out, as I did, that Randy Orton was 1 and Edge was 2. Now, fast forward to the Rumble, Edge's music hits and he comes out number 1, and I immediately think, because I'm watching it with Tim, one of the hosts of Sharp Bets and Fantasy Sets, and we were watching, and Edge's music hit, and I said, "Edge is 2," and Tim was like, "Looks like he's number 1, pal." And the thing came on the screen saying number 1 Edge. I don't know if it was a goof up, if they were just playing off the fact. I know the announcer said during the broadcast that he was so excited he wanted to be the first one out. I don't know. I mean, truth be told, it really doesn't matter if you're 1 and 2 and you make it to the end. You're wrestling the same amount of time. All of the money aside, and the fact that WWE cost me $900, I'm happy that Edge won over Randy Orton. I did not want to see Randy Orton win. I know I'm probably going to sound a little hypocritical. If you watch the show, you're probably thinking, but wait a minute. You shit all over Goldberg. You shit all over the part-timers. There's a difference to me between a guy who collects a paycheck, who's not a fan of the wrestling business, who comes back, versus a guy who left and lost 11 years of his career due to injury and was a wrestling fan. I mean, Edge was a mark before the term even existed. He was the guy as a kid with Christian watching WrestleMania in Toronto with Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. He's not a guy that was at a gym one day when Sting walked in DDP and said, "Hey, we should get this giant muscle guy, into the wrestling." Goldberg, as much as I like Goldberg, I like 1997-98 Goldberg. I even like that first, recreation of him when he came back and beat, Brock Lesnar, because it told a story. I think Edge winning is great. I think we're finally going to get to see, because when he first came back, my biggest gripe again was he was fighting with Orton. We've seen it before. Like, let's see him in new feuds. Well, any challenger or any champion he fights as the challenger is going to be a new feud, something we've never seen before, whether it be Drew, whether it be Roman, whether it be the NXT champ, Finn Balor. So I'm excited to see where they go with it. I think he's going to be fighting Roman Reigns. I think that's the logical choice, but I was all for Edge winning. He was my predicted pick to win, so I'm happy that he won.
Nice. Fred, you were actually with me. We were socially distanced, of course, but we watched the Rumble event together.
Yep.
What were your thoughts when Edge won?
Man, I was pumped. I was very excited to see Edge win it. I'm a huge Edge fan. We talked about it in the episode we did. One of my favorite moments was the 2020 Rumble with Edge's return. So to have him come back a year later, especially being out for the last 7 months with a triceps injury, to come back from that, then on top of it, and win the Rumble, start from the beginning, go like 58 minutes, which not only at his age, after being off for all that time, and, not forgetting that he was out before the 7 months, he was out for 9 years besides the 2 matches he had. I mean, it's incredible that he went that long and won the Rumble. And like Nick said, yeah, I mean, I know I said in the other episodes, I wanted Goldberg to make the title, or I was happy about Goldberg's return, which I enjoy his return. I mean, him winning the title, maybe I didn't want really, but him returning, cool. But Edge is completely different. Yeah, Edge is, I can't even compare him to Goldberg. As much as I was supporting Goldberg, Edge is a different animal. Like Nick said, he's been a fan his whole life. He still is a huge fan. And this was taken away from him, something he loved. And now he's got the chance to, right that wrong, end it on his own terms. So I'm very happy Edge won. I think my 2 picks that I mean, on the preview show, I selected Daniel Bryan, and I would have been happy if Bryan won. But if it wasn't going to be Bryan and it wasn't going to be The Undertaker, I'm glad it was Edge. So I'm very happy with the decision. And again, like Nick said, anybody he faces, whether it's Finn or whether it's Roman, and most likely will be Roman, and that seems to be the one that people want the most out of the 3, at least right now, would be amazing. So I'm hoping, too, that it's Roman. I think there's a lot they could tell with that, spear versus spear, and, they both started in factions. They both used to make their entrances through the crowd. There's little things there that they could, and Edge is all about the storytelling now, more so than ever. So that's stuff that they could all pull out. And obviously Roman's the biggest star in the entire company. So that would, by proxy, be the biggest match that Edge could have and warrant a WrestleMania main event. And I personally like when the Rumble winners do go on to main event, go last. There's a
100%.
You know, I mean, okay, yeah, the Rumble, you know, they win the Rumble and now we have 2 titles and they're not in the last match. You know, certain years it warranted, certain years it doesn't. You know,
I feel like more often than not, Fred, we've seen it early on. I mean, we've seen Del Rio and Edge.
Edge
After
himself.
Del Rio won. Yeah, Daniel
Edge won the
Bryan,
Rumble last time. Him and Jericho.
Right. The first WrestleMania, you know, that we were at all together, I think at the same time, although in different seats. Sheamus won, fought Daniel Bryan in the first match. I mean, we've seen first match Rumble winners so many times. It is refreshing, to your point, to see, you know, the guy who wins the Rumble hopefully closing out the show.
It puts the importance on the Rumble again. You know, like I mean, it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to, but Drew winning, you know, and then that was the main event.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully this year, you know, it's the same thing. I mean, they did it with Becky a couple years ago, which was obviously a huge deal for multiple reasons. But yeah, but anyway, bottom line, I'm very excited that Edge won the Rumble, and I don't know if he'll win. If he faces Roman, I don't know if he'll win the title.
So that's where I wanted to get to, right? So obviously Edge winning is awesome, right? Great for his career, great comeback success story. What I love about all 3 of these potential matchups against McIntyre, Finn, or Roman.
And sidebar, Miguel, not to cut you off real quick. I eventually want to see all of them.
Me too, right? And that's what I was going to say.
Whatever comes first. I hope we get to all of them at some point in the course of Edge's the rest of his career.
And I think
back to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we will. But what's great about it is that we've never seen any of them touch before. I mean, McIntyre and Edge may have had a touch back in the day, but McIntyre wasn't today's McIntyre. Let's put it that way, right? And I know for Finn, Roman, they weren't even in WWE when Edge retired, so they've.
I had to think about that. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, Edge was gone before Roman even debuted.
Yeah,
they fought a little bit. They fought a little bit in the Rumble last year because Reigns was in the ring. But it to your guys' point, it wasn't a match. I mean, the match, and Roman is a great wrestler. Like, I understand people shit on him because of the character and he's forced down our throat. But Roman, the wrestler, is fucking amazing. So, you know, he's going to have a great match with anybody. Edge, the great storyteller. I mean, that match has 10 out of 10 written all over it. I can't wait for that match, honestly.
Yeah, I think it is going to end up being Edge and Roman, right? Like, to Fred's point, I want to see all 3. But I think what makes the most sense for WrestleMania is spear versus spear. So the $1 million question becomes, well, what do? Do you kind of full 360 or 180 the comeback story of Edge triumphantly returning, right, to get injured again, to returning again, this time winning the Royal Rumble to win the Universal Championship? Or do you continue the path of today's most dominant wrestler in WWE, which is Roman Reigns? Nick, what would you do in fantasy booking? I know it's early on, but let's say he picks Roman, right? If you're Vince McMahon and you're signing off on the dotted line, WrestleMania main event, Roman versus Edge, who are you taking? Or who are you making go over in this match?
You know, I think you got to go Roman at WrestleMania with the win. I think it'll be a cheap win. Yeah, I think Edge will get the win in the next pay-per-view, and I think this has 3 pay-per-view feud written all over it. I mean, there's no way they're going one and done. Right. You know, barring an Edge injury, you know, God forbid, or something with Roman, but I could see it going Roman in WrestleMania, Edge in the one after that, and then, you know, Roman winning, you know, and finally ending that feud. Edge should be brought back. At the end of the day, as much as I'm happy he won the Rumble, it wasn't to see him in another title reign. Or, you know, if he gets it, cool. I mean, I'm not going to shit all over it, but, you know, I think it would do better for Roman to get the win over Edge and come out victorious over this 3-match feud. Just given the fact that when you bring an old person back, I mean, I have old school mentality when it comes to that stuff. The old timers should put over the new guys. I mean, that's just the way that I think it should be done. Now that Edge can't get his licks in or look strong or get a win here or there, but, you know, Roman should come out of that with the title.
Brad, who would you have win early on?
You know, yeah, it's a tough call. My heart would want Edge to win because it would just be a, you know, Cinderella story. I mean, it'd be amazing.
Right.
And I know there have been plans for a while dating back to before Edge even injured his tricep, of giving him a reign with the title. whichever one. So I do think Edge will win the title. I just don't know if it'll be at WrestleMania. But like Nick said, he sees this being at least a 3-match feud, and I do too. So I don't know if Edge will win at Mania. I think Roman, maybe with the reign he's had, no pun intended, should get the win at Mania, and then Edge could win it at a later pay-per-view. And even if he has a reign for a month or so, and then Reigns wins it back. But I would love Edge to win, but I think Roman has to win at WrestleMania, regardless of whoever his opponent is. Even if it was The Rock, which hopefully will happen in a couple of years, he's got to win no matter who it is.
Yep.
You know, I just think it's important to continue the growth of that character.
Yeah.
Not that losing it would ruin it. I mean, if you know how to lose right, you know, doesn't take anything away. But at the same time, I think Roman should have a W at this WrestleMania.
You could tell a story, right? And either if you tell the right story, Edge winning wouldn't be a bad thing. It wouldn't be detrimental to Roman's character or his push. But yeah, I agree too. I think if it does come down to Edge and Roman, I think it'd be a great story for Edge to someday get the title. But on that main stage at WrestleMania, the first event back with fans, especially to what Nick said, if Roman does a cheap victory, right? If he does some heel bullshit to win and the fans are legitimately booing because they're in support of Edge, I think it makes for a cool scene. Roman ending the night with the hoisting the title over his head, right? With Paul Heyman staring at him and at the title as the show goes off the air. I don't know. There's something to be said about that, right? Like that to me is a great close for WrestleMania this year.
Right.
You know, sticking on to the Edge story before we move on to some other things that happened at the Rumble, I want to kind of pick your guys' brain. I know I sent you both a meme, and this is going to be my mark moment of the night, but I sent you both a meme a couple of days ago, and basically it was a guy sitting in front of his computer, and it's a picture of Sting in AEW saying, "This is awesome, Sting is back." And then that same guy sitting in front of his computer with Edge winning the Royal Rumble and pointing to the Rumble sign or doing the horns to the Rumble sign. And that same guy going, "This is ridiculous. Vince McMahon doesn't know how to create new stars." Nick, I know you're probably the most fair. You know, it's definitely noted that me and Fred are a bit of a WWE marks. But do you think there's some truth to that meme at all?
Not to the extent that the meme was, and I certainly don't want to sound into play off of a Simpsons reference. I certainly don't want to be the old man yelling at clouds when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I do think there's something to be said over the fact that, and I know I sent this to you guys the night of WrestleMania. I'm okay that Edge won. But I do think there's a problem when the average age of the Rumble participant for the men's is 38 and only 2 people under the age of 30 were in it at all. I thought, as much as I disliked the guy, they made Matt Riddle look very good. But like, can we get Keith Lee in the fucking Rumble? Like, why wasn't Keith Lee in the Rumble?
I don't know, but
he's in quarantine in his defense, in WWE's defense.
Okay, so if that
he wasn't on Raw.
I forgot Mia Yim has COVID. That's exactly why he wasn't.
Okay, so that's fair. But it was just like my initial reaction was just, here's a guy that beat Orton clean on a pay-per-view, his debut pay-per-view. They made him look great, and now like he's not on the Rumble at all. But if quarantine aside, then that makes sense. I don't necessarily know, and maybe it's unpopular opinion. I don't know if I need a lot of NXT guys in the Royal Rumble. I mean, the NXT this past week, I think they did like 600,000 views, 700,000 views, whereas SmackDown and Raw are well closer to 2 million views. So more than half the people that watch Raw and SmackDown, and most likely these pay-per-views, don't watch NXT. So they don't know who these guys are. And maybe, sure, it's a good introductory way to bring them in. I don't know. I mean, I just think they need to bring some of these guys up and they need to utilize them more. It just would have been better off than bringing people in. Nobody in their right mind thinks anybody from NXT is ever winning a Rumble. It's just not going to happen. Vince isn't going to allow that to happen.
So let's talk about the Rumble match itself, right? The men's Royal Rumble match. I want to dissect it a little bit, and we'll start off with the NXT participants. Nick, I kind of get what you're saying about NXT guys kind of coming in, and it sounds like, to your point, they're a little bit of a waste in the sense that nobody ever believes they're ever going to win. But I think that's how you sometimes make a first good impression, right? Like, look at Damian Priest. He also, along with Matt Riddle, I felt had a really good showing in the Men's Royal Rumble. The next night on Raw, right? And yeah, he's getting that Bad Bunny rub. He had a really good showing on Raw as well, too. So,
yeah. I mean, it was a good.
But doesn't that, to your point, doesn't that make it almost sound like he got the call up? Like it does sound like, because he was on Raw too.
Yeah, that was his way of getting called up. Was the
so that's different, but that's different. So that's great. That's what I want. What I don't want is for some random NXT guy just to get 600,000 people at home to say, "Oh, yippee!" He's an NXT internet guy, and then to have them go right back to NXT. So if somebody gets called up to the main roster, the big leagues, that's different. I would agree. That's cool. What I don't want is for NXT guys to come in who I don't know anything about, and I won't know anything about after they're off of Raw and SmackDown. And I would make the argument based on fact that I'm part of the majority of people that watch the Royal Rumble who don't know who those guys are, because it's just fact. 600,000 people watch NXT, 2 million people watch Raw and SmackDown. So I'm part of the majority in that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I felt like there weren't that many NXT people in it this year, though. Was there?
No, they didn't include them like last year. They were a part of both of them. This year, they really weren't. It was just Damian Priest because he was getting called up, and then in the men's anyway.
I think my point was more based on the women's, or just in general.
Well, no, I get general. Yeah, and I see your point on it, but I don't know. I don't mind seeing the NXT, whether it's men's or women's, in the Rumble.
I mean, you look at last year though, and Keith Lee was in there, and that was a huge moment for Keith Lee, and he went right back to. I mean, he ended up debuting on the main roster over the summer, but
right.
It depends on the guy. I think if there's a legitimate guy that can come in and make an impression, then it's worth it. If the guy is in there a little bit, if it's an NXT guy that's just going to come in and get tossed out in 2 minutes, even 5 minutes, then no, it's not worth it. Like, for instance, again, like a couple years ago, Adam Cole was in it, and that was a big deal because he was. I don't know if he was NXT champion at the time or not, but he was obviously one of the main guys on NXT.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the guy. For instance, like Shotzi Blackheart was in the women's Rumble. She was in it for literally 2 minutes. That was a waste of her talent and made her look.
She the one that came out in the little mini tank? Who's the one
tank,
that came out? Yeah. What the hell?
And she's pretty big on NXT.
She is.
So and she was in the Rumble last year, so I expected her to get a really good show, but she really didn't. So I think it's on a by basis, situation, but
what's funny is that I just thought of Nick has no idea who Shotzi Blackheart is, right? Which is fine, but I kind of wonder what your reaction was when you saw this girl with green hair in a tank rolling down to the ring. You probably.
I think my exact quote to Tim was, "What the f is this shit?" You got the girl coming out in a tank. Her name is Shotzi Blackheart. I mean, it's just. Can we get a name like Tracy Morgan or something normal? Like Shotzi Blackheart sounds like something that Bart Simpson would call Mo over at the Mo's Tavern and try to get a prank out of. Shotzi Blackheart. I mean, what is that name?
Fred, what did you think of the story that the Men's Rumble told this year compared to last year's?
It had its moments this year, but I think I'm a very big fan of last year's Rumble. Last year's
that was great.
Was incredible. And I thought this year's Rumble was very good. I was happy with both of them. But I think last year's was better. I mean, different circumstances. But I love the surprises. I mean, Christian's return was amazing.
Right.
Yeah, that was
Carlito, excellent. So this year, and Edge winning. I mean, so
Hurricane not so great.
Now we've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it already.
The Hurricane, I'll admit, the Hurricane, I was a little like, like it was cool in 2018.
Yeah, when we were there.
Right.
Because he hadn't been there in
Right.
It was cool. But, but like Carlito, that was a good one.
That was awesome. That was cool.
Yeah, like last week when you asked who would I like to see, like I didn't say Carlito, said Steve Blackman, but we didn't get. But Carlito would have been one that I would have chosen. He looked great, so like that was great. But we'll get to the women's. But I thought the women's was actually even better than the men's.
I thought
the finish of the women's was
awesome.
I mean, the men's was great too. Don't get me wrong, and but and that's the other thing too about like people that are complaining if they didn't create new stars, which I'm really not hearing much complaints about Edge winning. Honestly, I really haven't heard that much. Like I've heard some. I've heard a few things, but not as much. I think because it's Edge. If it was another old guy that won, like say Goldberg did win, or somebody else, older, it wasn't a new young star won, I think there'd be more complaints. But because it's Edge and the fans love Edge, and they're invested in him and his story, I don't think there was that much of a complaint. But anyway, my point is, so you had Edge, but what did you do with the women's Rumble? You created a new star. So if you were mad that you didn't get that in the men's, you damn sure got it in the women's on multiple levels. Not only did they created, she was already kind of a star, but Rhea Ripley looked amazing in that finish. So, so people that complain about not creating new stars, just watch the women's Royal Rumble. That's what I got to say.
Nick, how scared were you that Goldberg was going to make a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble?
Well, that's it. So I can't imagine, and we talked about it last week on the preview show, that there was a rumor that there was a potential finish for the men's Rumble that was so scary in terms of like fan reaction that some of the people at the company were really afraid that they were going to do it to see what the fans. What do you think? What do you think that could have been?
It had to have been that.
I don't know. Maybe it was Goldberg. I'll be honest with you. There is a part of me that wanted it to happen just so that people would be pissed off and I would just laugh. But
there wasn't a part of you. You were saying in my house the whole time, you're like, bro, Goldberg's coming out. And I was like, Fred, you are literally the only human being that wants Goldberg to enter this Royal Rumble match right now. Sorry to put you on blast.
He knows the show would have been super entertaining this week.
We'd have had a good show, that's for damn sure.
It would have just been me yelling for an hour.
But I will say this, right? And we could transition to talk about, we'll get to the Women's Royal Rumble, but let's talk about the Goldberg-McIntyre match. Honestly, it was quick, but I thought it was one of Goldberg's better showings since his new run, we'll call it, since the 2016 run, we'll call it. I know he's been doing matches here and there, but I honestly felt he didn't screw up any of the moves. He didn't drop anyone on its head, which I know, the bar is set so low for him. But I don't know, Nick, because I know you're the most critical of Goldberg out of the three of us. Did you feel like it was definitely one of his better showings, albeit that it was a very short match?
The bar is very low for what's a great Goldberg match and what isn't over his last couple of matches that he's had. That being said, I thought it was smart booking the way that they did it. I thought it told a very quick, very unique story. And in the end, we got what we always get, a bunch of, finishing moves at the end, some false finishes, but in the end, the right guy won. And at the end of the day, that was my biggest concern in the match. And they did that right. So, I can't complain too much. I'm hoping that's the end of Goldberg in a main event spot, but I thought they did it right.
I was scared to death that Goldberg was going to win the world title. I was telling Fred, I was like, holy crap, he's gonna jackhammer him and it's over. When he picked him up, when he speared him and then jackhammered him, I was like, oh God, please kick out. And then he did, and I was like, all right, now I think McIntyre's gonna win. It took him 2 claymores to get the job done, but I was terrified. And to WWE's credit, I'll give them kudos. I mean, that's the kind of booking, that's the stories we kind of want, is that where we don't know always. Is it a done deal, right? Like, we didn't go into that match saying, oh, McIntyre's definitely going to win.
No.
Always had some doubt, right? And that's the complete opposite of Roman and KO. And, we could talk about that match in a second here, which, I think we'll all agree was a hell of a lot of a better match.
Oh, it was. I mean, we'll get to that match.
Yeah, but I think it's
besides the finish, amazing.
Yeah, but right, of course, and that happens sometimes. But honestly, I think sometimes it's cool that WWE does that. I mean, it sucks because there's so many people that don't like Goldberg, and you want people like McIntyre, you want them to do the right thing and build stars. But I don't know. There's a part of me that I think it's kind of smart that sometimes you never know what Vince McMahon and company are thinking, right? And I think those were one of those cases where the fans were sweating it out, so to speak.
And let me just say this: going into the Rumble, and the Rumble's different because the selling point of the Rumble is the Rumble. But besides the actual Rumble match, what was the most point of conversation about anything regarding the Royal Rumble this year?
It was Goldberg.
Good, bad, or indifferent, people were talking about Goldberg.
Right.
Whether they were pissed, whether they were happy, whether they were nervous, whatever the emotion was, it evoked emotion and it evoked a response.
That was us. That was all three of us. Fred happy, Nick pissed, Miguel nervous.
All right, there you go. We covered all our bases. So it got people talking. It got people invested.
Yeah, I agree.
Back in the day, people used to, the idea was, people would buy tickets to go to the arena to see the heel get his ass kicked. I mean, this is a different situation. I'm not saying Roman was the heel that people were paying, but the idea being that people wanted to pay to see the bad guy get murdered. So people may have bought the Rumble hoping and praying that Goldberg got beat. And he did. But, so, I mean, whether that's a sign of problems with the current roster, that there's not enough guys on that roster to create that kind of intrigue, Drew versus somebody else, to create that same buzz as Drew versus Goldberg did create, that may be another issue that you got to look into. But the fact remains that Goldberg still creates a buzz, whether, again, good, bad, or indifferent. So, I think, but they made the right call on Drew winning.
Yeah.
I don't think Drew should have lost to Goldberg.
So we'll get to other matches here.
Yeah.
Real quick. And I know it's early on, but let's pretend that Edge does pick Roman at WrestleMania for the Universal title. Who would you like to see McIntyre take on, saying that he, retains the title between now and Mania? Who is your guy? Because I'm still going with Brock. I'm still holding out for Brock McIntyre.
Yeah. My number one pick would be Brock because, like I said, I believe I said it last week on the show, I want to see Drew versus Brock again. And at a WrestleMania, they
right.
deserve that. I think there's a lot, like I said last week, a lot more meat on the bone, and there is. Again, I don't know circumstances with the travel ban, if Lesnar's even going to re-sign, even if he can travel. I don't know any of that. So if it's not going to be him and Brock, then who else, right? Mm-hmm. Well, based off of what happened on Monday, it certainly seems that they could lead to a Drew and Sheamus feud, which I'm not against. I think there is a built-in story there that by the time we get to Mania, people will be dying to see. They've been building Sheamus back up the last few months. They were doing it on SmackDown when he had his feud with Jeff Hardy, and then he came over to Raw. It was a little slow in the beginning, but he's been a pretty big part of the show. He's been involved with Drew, Keith Lee. He's been a focal point of somewhat of the show. So after doing that on Monday, I think they could build to Sheamus being a viable threat to Drew. And
I don't know, dude. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I feel like Sheamus is damaged goods at this point.
Do you really? You think?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing that at Fastlane or Elimination Chamber, but to me, it's not a WrestleMania match. I mean, they have They got 12 weeks or whatever, 11 weeks to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they have a long time to really build that, and they have a story already built in. They really have been friends for 20 years.
Yeah.
They really did, come to the country together and wrestle on the independents in the UK years ago together. So it's what you want in a WrestleMania match, that long-term, long-build story that by the time we get to April, I get what you're saying about Sheamus, but I really do think they've been doing good with him the last couple of months. And if they continue that, who knows? Because if it's not going to be Sheamus, then and it's not going to be Brock, who else is there? They already did him and AJ at TLC, and even if they did, yes, maybe AJ's a little bit of a bigger star than Sheamus, at least right now. But it's like you already have this real emotion there with the fact that they, they are friends still in real life, but you know what I mean.
Is Karrion Kross back and healthy?
Yeah, man, I like Kross a lot.
They're fast tracking him to the main roster. I think after Mania, he's definitely debuting on the main.
Him against Drew's a heavyweight clash.
Oh, yeah. Him versus him and Roman would be great. Yeah.
I feel like right before he got hurt, he was up on the main roster. He was starting to get because I don't watch NXT, but I knew who he was.
Well, he was the champ. He had just won the title.
No, you're right.
I think I was gushing over him. I kept texting.
Yeah, but he's a guy that I think could fight Drew. I agree with Miguel. Sheamus against Drew, they could tell a story, but to me that's a payback pay-per-view match. I don't necessarily know if it's a Mania one.
That's a shame for Sheamus. Unfortunately.
Yeah, because I used to like Sheamus.
That he's been booked that way. That people that you guys have that. Because I get what you're saying. You're not wrong in feeling that way about Sheamus. You're not.
But to your point, I can't think of anybody else. I'm just saying.
I think
it's got to be Brock, Sheamus, or
if it's not Brock,
it's gonna be Brock.
I'd rather have him and Sheamus than a thrown together match with no real reason. That's the only reason I would be for Sheamus and Drew. But I do get what you're saying, and that's unfortunate that happened. It's kind of Shinsuke. They're building him back up. Is it too late?
I feel like for Shinsuke, it's not. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
I was gonna say I would like to see him and Drew, but it seems like he's kind of turning face or is already a face. So I don't.
Yeah, people were talking about him and Roman, which would be great, but I don't think I don't think that'll happen at Mania, but maybe it will happen at either Chamber or Fest.
No, and if they did a Chamber match with multiple people who anybody could win, I'm always a fan of Daniel Bryan, but I feel like his time's passed now at this point. If he didn't win that Rumble, I just don't see him back in a title picture again, as much as it bums me out to say that, because I do like Daniel Bryan a lot, but I don't see it at this point.
Nick, I want to ask you, let's move on to the Roman KO match, right? So I don't think anyone will disagree. It was a hell of a lot better of a match than Goldberg and McIntyre.
Amazing. One of the best matches of the year.
Yeah, I really...
We're only a month in, but that's...
Yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed it, but obviously, we all saw what happened the last 3 to 4 minutes or so. Nick, did you feel like that spoiled the entire match? What were your thoughts on that? Because obviously it was an accident, right? Paul Heyman didn't mean to fumble and not be able to unlock the handcuffs, which, when you're on live TV, shit like that happens. But did you feel like that ruined the whole match?
No, it definitely didn't ruin the whole match. I shit on it at the time because, I do love shitting on the WWE product.
That's what you do. That's your gimmick, bro.
I love doing it mostly to Miguel, and I know that I get Miguel when he doesn't write back to me. I know when Miguel won't write back anymore, I know I got him, which is my favorite thing to do. I love to piss him off so much that he just won't even respond to me. But no, it didn't ruin the match. If anything, it went from an A match to an A minus, an A minus to a B plus. Regardless of how hard of a rater you are, I thought the match overall was great. Couple nitpicky things in it. I think it's hilarious. If you're going to have a pallet on a forklift and you're going to jump off it, if there's a platform already built into a pallet, for you to jump off on, it just, to me, is kind of I've never seen a pallet look like that. I'm more about the realism, but we are talking about a federation or World Wrestling Entertainment that had people throwing fireballs at other people and Alexa Bliss with blood coming out of her mouth. So I understand that suspended reality sometimes happens in professional wrestling. But the other thing to me that kind of was like, come on, man, it's just like so stupid. Sometimes they slap us in our face with how stupid it is, you know, you got the referee and he's damn near counting to 10 and Roman Reigns grabs him, yanks him into hitting something. The next referee comes out and stands even closer to Roman Reigns than the other ref. He counts to 5 and then he just stops counting because obviously we realized that, you know, Heyman fumbled. They weren't going to get it down in under 10, so he just stops counting. Again,
Right.
I'm not going to hold any of that against them. Just a little nitpicky things. Overall, the match was great. Let's just leave it at that. It was a great match.
Only thing I'll say about that, right? I was thinking about this because I watched it back again the next day. I mean, I think Heyman's a true pro that he could have just maybe called an audible and just like clotheslined the referee. But I don't know how that stuff works if they're not like in on it. Like maybe if they fall, it looks even worse than just doing what they did anyway. But Heyman could have like went over and like just shoved the referee and just like whispered to him like stay down, you know, or some shit like that. But I don't know. I guess when you're in the moment and you're panicking, anything can happen, right? You know?
I guess so. Have a backup plan, though. Have bolt cutters. Have something with you. I mean, we're Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you would have to think on a main stage like that, they'd have to have a plan B or something. But they didn't, and that's what kind of, like, made it look dumb at the end. But I'm not going to hold it against the two guys wrestling. It was a great match.
Sure. So let's talk about the last match that obviously drew in big impact, which was the Women's Royal Rumble. And that was the fact that, you know, and Fred, I know you said this earlier, whatever we think of that did or did not happen in the men's match with maybe creating new stars, boy, oh boy, did we get the complete opposite in the women's match, right? I mean, if Bianca Belair wasn't a star beforehand, my God, she is now a bona fide star for the women's division. I mean, I am looking forward to this showdown. I know she can technically pick Asuka, Io Shirai from NXT or Sasha Banks, but the smart money's got to be Sasha versus Belair at WrestleMania, right, Fred?
Oh, it's got to be. I think that's the match without question. It just has top billing on it all over. She's been a star since she first debuted in NXT. And that's the one thing you hear everybody saying is that as soon as they saw her, they knew she was a star. And I'm not gloating, but I knew the same thing. As soon as I said, this girl's going to be something one day. You could just tell. You know, I didn't know it would be this quick, but you could just tell that, like, when somebody's got it. And she had it.
Is it because her name's Bianca Belair and not Shotzi McFlurry or whatever that other girl's name is?
Shotzi McFlurry. That's a good name for somebody.
Yeah.
But she's just incredible. And the performance that she put on in there. I mean, what did she come in? Number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And only the second person to do that.
Shout out to our boy Arturo who won with Bianca Belair, my Rumble.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. That was big. As soon as he got her, I said, he's gold.
But they put some suspended some disbelief in there because I was like, oh, maybe Rhea Ripley's gonna win, right?
Yeah, I mean that finish. I mean, I went from thinking Bianca's got this in the bag to like, oh shit, Rhea may win this.
That was one of the best final 2 people, men or women, I think I've ever seen. I mean, it's definitely not number 1, but I would say it's up there, right? I mean,
Charlotte and Becky were the final 2 in the year that Becky won.
Yeah, but I feel like Belair and
Charlotte and Becky Lynch are a bigger.
I'm not saying they're bigger stars than Charlotte and Becky, but I feel like Belair and Ripley, I don't know, they told a better story. Maybe because you didn't know who was going to win. And I'm not saying you did with Charlotte and Becky because they're both on the
It was more predictable with that. It was Becky's year. I get your point. Either one of them could have won. I agree.
Right? And a lot of people went in to Fred's point saying, oh, Belair's got this in the bag. But when it was down to her and Ripley, I was like, wow, this can go either way. Right? So they both definitely had a good showing. Nick, what were your thoughts on some of the surprise returns? I thought Victoria was really cool to see her back. Did you like that?
Yeah, that
was
was a good
awesome.
one. I think we've seen enough of Tori Wilson. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever could really see enough of Tori Wilson.
Yeah,
If
I'm
you know
not
what I
going to
mean?
complain about seeing Tori Wilson.
But
But
it's
I get
like, Tori Wilson, she was never like a great wrestler to begin with. She was part of the era where it was more about the way you looked than anything. I'll say
Right.
one thing because we really didn't touch on it at all. With Sasha Banks beating Carmella. Carmella is somebody who I've grown fond of more and more the more I watch her fight. I mean, she's gotten so much better.
Yeah, she has.
Carmella is really good, but to talk about the Rumble itself, I was happy with what I saw. I was happy with who won. I'm all about him building new stars. We got that. I do think that all signs point to Belair and Sasha makes the most logical choice. So I'm excited to see where they go with that. It was cool to see Naomi. It was cool to see some of the other girls that were in it. But overall, I thought the women's was better than the men's. If I had to give a letter grade, probably a B plus. I think the women's was maybe an A minus. Give the men's a B plus.
B plus, like your boy Daniel Bryan, B plus player.
B plus player. Yeah, I like a Rumble with a story, which is why I think, and to your point, Fred, earlier, last year's Rumble for the men's was just so much better than a Rumble that we've seen in a long time. But this women's Rumble was great. I'm not going to ramble on. Belair was the right choice to win, and I'm excited to see where they go.
If Belair and Sasha do fight at WrestleMania, Fred, we'll kind of end on this point with the Women's Rumble match. I know you said earlier, right, that you like the prestige of the Rumble winner going on last. If you're booking a WrestleMania card, do you think it makes sense to open the show with one Rumble winner and close the show with another? And so in this case, would you start WrestleMania? And I know we have 8-9 weeks before the show. But would it be really cool for Belair and Sasha to kick off the show in this case, you think?
I mean, it's not a terrible idea. I think it would be a great opening match because the opening match is very important at WrestleMania. I mean, any show, it doesn't get the credit it deserves. The opening match deserves credit because it starts the whole tempo of the show. I don't know if we lost Nick there, but there he is.
No, I'm back. The Mets just signed Trevor Bauer. Breaking news. I had to look at that being a big Mets fan. Continue.
But yeah, so I think that it could certainly open the show. I mean, look, they did that 2 years ago with Seth and Brock. Again, that wasn't originally the plan. Brock said, I ain't fucking sitting here for 7 hours. Put me on first if I'm not last. So it was a little bit of a different situation, but it worked, right? So maybe they will do that. I don't know. I mean, I think whatever the Raw Women's title match is going to be, it won't be as big as the SmackDown. So then I don't know. In that case, do I see the SmackDown going on before the Raw Women's title? Depends what the Raw Women's title ends up being. But as of now, I don't see. I mean, is it going to be Asuka and Charlotte? Who knows? Is it going to be somehow Charlotte and Lacey? Who knows? I don't know. So we'll see. But I wouldn't be mad if it opened up the show, Sasha and Bianca.
Yeah, I think Belair is gonna. Her and Sasha are gonna tell a nice story heading into WrestleMania. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Guys, I want to transition about another big topic that came into the wrestling community this week, and I know you both are aware of it because we talked about it a lot off air as well. But how about the fact that John Cena said that he's not going to be able to be at WrestleMania this year? This is his first WrestleMania with no capacity at all, no involvement at all since 2003, WrestleMania 19. Nick, is it going to be weird, in your opinion, WrestleMania without John Cena this year? Because he's been at every single one. Even the one in Jersey, I mean, he didn't fight, but he came out against Elias. He wasn't advertised, but we all knew he'd show up at some point because it's John Cena in WrestleMania. But he's flat out saying because of quarantine and because he's shooting a movie in Canada, there's just no way possible he could be at WrestleMania this year. Do you think it's a swerve? And if not, what do you think? Is this going to be weird without him this year?
I hope to see him, but ultimately, this COVID virus is what it is. I mean, It's not because he doesn't want to be. It's not because they don't want him. It's because, unfortunately, due to quarantining and the rules for the film that he's doing and the rules with, travel, that it's just not going to happen this year. And that's a bummer because, John Cena is a staple when it comes to, WrestleMania. But it sucks, but what can you do?
Yeah. Fred, if it's true, right, that we don't see John Cena, there's not that many stars from the 90s and 2000s that are left to compete, right? And we know WrestleMania is all about star power. So you had The Undertaker, what we think was officially retired in November at Survivor Series, right?
Mm-hmm.
He won't be there. He won't be wrestling. We had John Cena now who's saying that he can't be there for any case. I mean, off the top of your head, who would you put to wrestle at WrestleMania if you're looking for some star power, right? What if Brock can't come either? Like, who do you got?
I mean, the only other guy, and you'll like this one, is Triple H.
All right.
I mean, honestly, I guess you could
his match. You would think
you could put Edge in that class, but I put Edge in a different category because he is. I mean, he's not full time, but he's a pretty active wrestler.
Right.
So I mean, yes, Edge is a legend and a Hall of Famer, but he's not like that guy who's coming back for the one big match the year. So, yeah, I mean, Triple H is the only one. And who does he face?
I would say somebody from NXT. I just don't know who.
I don't know. I mean, I know he doesn't want to wrestle, but if Vince tells him you are, he will,
Well, he's apparently alive since we saw him on the Superstar Spectacle.
Oh, I know.
I thought he was maybe dead in the Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah, I was like, I got it, and it was cool, but I was like, well, kayfabe is dead, brother.
Kayfabe died a long time ago.
Yep.
Guys, last time before we sign off for the night, did you guys get a chance to check out the Yokozuna documentary? Nick, did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, and I put it out on Facebook, and I think I put it out on Twitter too. Awesome documentary. A great introduction into the Icon series that they're doing. WWE does a great job with their documentaries. It's one of my favorite things to watch. I mean, I just recently watched the AJ Styles, Royal Rumble debut one. Looks like they're doing one, and Untold with the APA, which I think is just going to be brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
That I can't wait for. But their documentaries are just home run after home run. But the Yokozuna one was absolutely phenomenal. Couldn't give it a higher grade.
Fred, did you feel like we learned a lot? Because I know I did. There was a lot about Yokozuna I didn't know. And after watching the documentary, it was just like, wow, I learned so much about it.
I mean, usually when I watch these documentaries, I love them. And I'm like, oh, but usually I pretty much know everything that, they're saying for the most part. But one thing that shocked me, I had no idea. And I'm a little mad at myself. And I was a little upset. I had no idea that Sergeant Slaughter named Yokozuna when we're trying to, and came up with the idea. I never
make them Japanese.
Yeah, I didn't know that was Sergeant Slaughter's brainchild. I thought honestly the whole time because Vince a lot of times had these characters in mind, and then he would just come find, he needed the right guy, So I thought he had this idea of a sumo wrestler, and then he saw Yoko and thought that's my guy, but no. So I thought that was really cool. That was something I never heard that ever.
Dude, growing up, I honestly thought Yokozuna was Japanese.
I did too as a kid.
That's what I wanted to ask you guys. How old were you when you realized that he was actually Samoan?
It was honestly probably like only maybe 10 years ago. I realized.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Like
I feel like in high school I knew he was The Rock's cousin, or maybe when I was in college. But it was probably a good 3 or 4 years after that I was like, oh wait. If he's The Rock's cousin, he's probably not really.
Right. It was the same thing with me. It was the exact same thing. I remember thinking like, well, wait a minute. How could he, if he's Rock's cousin, he's Japanese? That's weird. I don't. And then I started realizing, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So, it was like a process. Like I didn't realize, but for years I thought he was Japanese.
Yeah, man. They did.
I thought he looked Japanese, and now when I look at him, I'm like, yeah, I guess not. But
he does. He still looks Japanese.
He still does to you? Yeah. I mean, I can see it, but at the same time, I'm like, I I don't know. I thought for sure he was when I was younger, and like again, not even young. I mean, like still a teenager. And
Dude,
thinking,
I feel like Yokozuna was a crossover star, right? Like, there's a lot of people who know that name, right? Have you ever talked to somebody who's not a wrestling fan and be like Yokozuna? They're like, oh, the sumo wrestler, right? Nick, have you ever gotten that before?
100%. Yeah, he's and I even went back after the documentary. I went back and watched the Rumble that he won, the 1993 Rumble. And man, I mean, he was just, you forget how good he really was. And I'm going to look forward to watching some of the Bret Hart matches, and I'm going to keep kind of deep diving into some Yokozuna matches that I probably forgot, because truth be told, at that stage in my life at 8 years old, I was super heavy into the faces, and I did not like the heels, and I certainly didn't like international heels. I just couldn't stand them.
right?
So I was very pro. I mean, I hated Yokozuna so much, I rooted for Lex fucking Luger. So I
Bet you regret that one.
yeah, I do. I was prancing around the room that Lex Luger won on a count out, like he just hit the game, like it was Joe Carter and just hit the game-winning World Series home run. But no, it was that documentary is unbelievable. I think I'm not as excited about the other four. It looks like the other four on the Icon series are going to be Lex Luger. I don't know if I'm necessarily looking forward to that, although I think there's a good story to tell there. Beth Phoenix, I feel like she's still too new for me to really care enough about her documentary. RVD sounds like it could be pretty interesting. And, the one that I'm probably looking forward to most out of all five outside of Yokozuna is the British Bulldog.
How do you think they pick in this series specifically? I mean, it's kind of a weird bunch of people, right? Like Yokozuna and Bulldog make sense. They were in the same time frame, but then you throw in RVD, Beth Phoenix. Oh, and I guess Lex Luger was in their time frame, so those three make sense. But I don't know. It's weird to see RVD.
It is weird. You're right.
It's a weird group. I don't know if they were selecting people that they haven't made documentaries on in the past, be it a DVD in those days from a few years ago, or a Network 24 or Chronicle that they haven't done. These are people that haven't really been profiled. That's the only thing I can think of why they chose them.
It'll be interesting to see.
I'm excited for the Luger one, honestly, because they talk a lot about like I'm interested to see how much they cover with the Liz stuff. And
see, that's the reason, and I agree with you. I think there's a lot to tell, but then it just becomes, and not to make fun of our show, but then it becomes too much Dark Side of the Ring. I mean, they could do a Dark Side of the Ring episode on Lex Luger.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lighter version, though, than...
Oh, yeah, they're not going to go that dark, but I think they're trying to beat Dark Side of the Ring to that topic. You know what I mean?
I actually liked Luger when he was in the Wolfpack and the Red and Black NWO. So, but yeah, WWE always does top notch with their production and all their documentaries. And honestly, anything they put out on the network, I always think is great. I don't think I've seen a bad thing they put on the network, if ever, in a very long time. Let's put it that way.
Correct. Agreed. Yeah,
their stuff is definitely top notch, from production all the way down to the story itself. So, guys, a lot of fun today. We talked about the Royal Rumble. Overall, I think we all agree it was a really good event. Royal Rumble is always a fun one, right? So it was cool to see and chop it up with you guys. Of course, like Nick mentioned earlier, you can catch all of our shows now on our brand new website. So feel free to visit the website. I know Nick gave that information before. In addition to finding our episodes on our website, you can catch us on YouTube channel, which is TruExact Radio. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and Twitter, TruExact Radio, for right now, all of our handles on there. You can also watch the show on Spotify, iTunes, the radio app for iPhones, and other platforms as well for any type of podcast. Guys, I look forward to talking again next week. For Fred, Nick, and myself, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next week. So thanks, guys.
See you later.
Take care.